my dear, dear friend, Jacco. This is all about the science behind productivity. I'm going to introduce Jacco, but before I do, let me just talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. So we're going to dive into the science behind productivity, remote selling, what's going on in the world, and how is it impacting our sales processes, our buyer journeys. Jacco and his team have done some amazing, amazing research. Amazing research. He's going to walk us through the research. We're going to talk about the implications of those research, his research findings. He's going to educate us. He's going to school us on what remote selling is and what it's not, with a little added bonus of remote coaching. Amazing. And then we're going to talk about what all this means and how this is to be applied to our playbooks, our enablement programs. And we're going to do all that right now, right here. And so one more word. Jacco and I have known each other for many, 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 many years. We both founded our companies around the same time. Winning by Design, an amazing company. They've trained over hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands. How many people would you say? Many, many, Jacco. And you've got over 1,000 clients.
Yeah.
Many, many, many. He's got over 1,000 clients. Now, what's amazing about Jacco and his team is they are pioneers in digital selling, remote selling, and in high velocity sales. Pioneers, right? They are showing us how it's done. And so we're so fortunate to have Jacco with his deep experience and his research here today. And so without further ado, Jacco, please say hello. I've talked already way too much, and introduce yourself, please, please.
Yes, well, nice to meet you all. My name is Jacco vanderKoolj, originally Dutch, born and raised in a little farmer's village. It was not a farm, but we lived slightly outside of it. And the youngest of 8. So that means that I had to, like always fight to get the scraps on the table, so to speak. But yeah, so over the years, been working for, as many Dutch technologists have been raised and farmed by the Dutch system, you go through what's called the Philips electronic system. And so I'm one of those people who went through that system. And that brought me into satellite sales. And so what I did sell, maybe you did not know this, Eli, I sold equipment for satellite Earth ground stations, traveled all across the world. In those days, this is, like pre-internet, like having a satellite Earth station was like internet stuff. It was the most advanced. The early days of MPEG-2 set-top boxes was as advanced as we nowadays would look at the internet and some of the software techniques that we're working with.
And so 2012, you're continuing with your story. You started winning, you founded, and you're now the co-CEO of Winning by Design. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Winning by Design, like it was, like it came to be at the following, and like the word of it is spite or anger or whatever it is, and like I'm trying to find my wallet, I can't find it. But I remember that one of the days I was, I went to another sales conference, and when I went to that conference, what I noticed that what was presented at that conference was, like how people were thinking about the keynote, the opening keynote. The guy held up his wallet, who was the opening keynote. I still know him. I will refrain from naming him since he's a renowned person. And like as he held up his wallet as the opening keynote, the entire audience was quiet, like, what is this? He's not saying anything. And by the time he started speaking, the crowd was hootering and hollering. He was holding it up and more, and everybody started like going crazy. And the first words out of his mouth was, if you want to sell to a salesperson, you got to talk to their wallet. And for me, this is one of the, the biggest challenges I've had is I do not believe in that. I felt like, I'm not part of this cult. I'm not built for this kind of approach to sales. I never did it for the money. The money is the outcome, not the goal. Like, I've always done it for helping my customers to succeed. That may sound like a little over the top, but it is. If I see a bridge being broken, as those of you who follow me on Instagram, I'm going to fix it. If I see a bench broken, I have tools with me while I'm running, I'll fix it. I just want to fix things, and I want to help a client fix their problem. And so for me, this was a big mismatch to what he was saying, and I wanted to share with the world what sales is truly about, and that is helping our customers to fix the issues they may have and they may see they have or not see.
And you've built a great business around that, and now you're not only helping your clients, you're helping the world. You're helping to evolve the entire sales profession, and you're helping. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I think is important on that is, like as many may not know, but this industry has a lot of like relation things that are kind of like dark like there's a lot of like arm twisting, lining of the pockets and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I've historically felt that that is the wrong thing to do. Like as an engineer and as an electrical engineer, I just want to do what is right. So for example, little things. It's like we don't take neither from if we work with you, Eli, we do not take any form of payment on the side with technology. Neither do we give you like there's no money exchange because you recommend our content. We don't pay you because when we use your platform, we don't pay you. You don't pay us extra 10%. That's not what is done. That is like wrong to do that, because otherwise when we would recommend the client, oh, you have to take a look at SalesHood, and we get paid in the back, that would feel odd, right? Like it's like somebody building a building and taking money from the guy who's pouring concrete or something like that, and it may be inferior concrete. And so that's one. The second thing is we want it to be designed. We want it to be built on proper principles. There needs to be math that proves that works behind the scene. And if there's not math behind it, then at least benchmark data. Well, we go through it. First math tells us how it operates. Benchmark data then proves to us that it operates. And then we can go and apply that into a company.
No, it's great. I remember when, we've known each other for many, many, many years. And from the beginning, founding our companies. And then we spoke right when COVID-19 hit and the pandemic hit. And we both realized that this is an opportunity to help companies make their way through this crisis and come out on the other end bigger, better, stronger, better win rates, better go to markets, and just overall high performing in their sales execution, their go to markets. And so that's why we partnered, and we're so grateful to you and your team. You published your remote selling curriculum inside of the SalesHood platform for our customers, and our customers love your content and love your frameworks and your blueprints, and we're so grateful. We're so grateful. And I think I'd love to understand, and then after we rolled it out and our customers were using it, then you shared with me this research study, which, I swear I probably read it once a day. And we're going to send it out to everyone. And this research study feels like the future of sales. And it feels like you wrote it exactly, but it just, anyway, it's amazing. We're going to go into the detail of it. Before we dive into it, can you just give some context around the research and in terms of how much research, how many companies, and what's it grounded in? Because I know you're an engineer, and so you're not going to just release research without it being scientifically proven, but tell us a little about the research that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so the research is based on benchmark data, and that benchmark data is what we established by working with, like I would say, between somewhere over 500 and to 1,000 companies. So our sample is pretty high. Now, what I find common and what many companies struggle with is what is the use truly of a benchmark? And so I'll give you an idea. Is the benchmark, if on average we see that the win rate is across 1,000 companies and the win rate is 30%, does that matter? And company says, well, who do you measure it on? 1,000 sample is accurate, but it's relevant. Well, it was 1,000 medtech companies, and they go like, well, I'm a total different kind of company. I am, like a educational technology company. So does it still apply to me? So what you see with benchmarks, they are very valuable because they give us the right direction, but there's a level of inaccuracy in there, right? Now, in our case, our sample was right about between 500 and 600, and we started to take notice that companies operated similar based on the annual contract value. So instead of thinking about cohorts around a vertical, such as medical technology and educational technology and construction, we started to see that it was way more cohortable, that we could group them up if we look at that as based on the price that they were selling. And why? Because buying behavior across company is in many cases similar. There's few exceptions. Fintech, financial technology has a few exceptions, but there's a lot of similarities once you look at the price that they have to internally approve. So $10,000 can get internally approved. If you bring in $250,000, it's going to get through some hurdles. And those hurdles are very similar across vertical markets. So that's how we started to look at the data.
No, it's great. It's great. And your research study, your research report starts with a definition, right? What is remote selling? And I think, you know, I gotta believe it's more than just opening up a Zoom, right? Maybe give us your scientific, you know, driven definition of what remote selling means today in these times, right now.
Yeah, so remote selling actually has two kinds of elements. First and foremost, you got to think of it, you know, and what most companies are struggling with is that it is overcoming a particular topic. It is solving. Now, I'm going to quickly take you through some visuals. Would you mind if I put up some visuals here in order to help us with that? Yeah.
I'm a visual person, so please go ahead. And folks, please feel free to post questions in the chat. And also, I'd love to know what cities you're all from. So you know, kind of maybe just list out where you are around the world, so we can get a feel for how global this live conversation is. But let's see some visuals on the definition of remote selling. Thank you.
Okay, so first and foremost, and can you see my screen, Eli?
Perfectly.
Okay, and so what you'll see down here, and I'll take you through very quickly. Traditionally, this is called synchronous. Synchronous means we all meet approximately in that same conference room at the same time. Same time, same place. Synchronous meeting. Hi there, Ryan from Vancouver. And so then what we do is, you know, if we put them all together, this is the Synchronous Playbook. We meet for a disco demo, we meet for the proposal review, we meet for a contractual organization. We meet in the same time and same place. Hi, Joe from Berkeley, California. Then what we were doing is, what we've seen is historically over the past 5 years, we started to replace some of those meetings with online meetings. Now, what you'll see when I do online, it is still the same time. Like today, we're all meeting here at the same time. However, it is now happening online, which is a new form of the same place. Hi, Nancy from San Jose, right around the corner. And so
Nice.
what we see today is that that entire playbook has shifted towards an online meeting. All those meetings have now moved, no longer in person, but are all online, online, online. That is the first attempt at what we call remote selling. It is not where we are going to be. And we're going to try to explain that to you. Remote selling has another part. It is called meetingless selling. And in this case, we are not only independent of location, we're also independent of time. We refer to that as asynchronous. If you think of that in the world today, a phone call is synchronous. I speak, you listen, and you say something back. Email is asynchronous. I send something to you. Do you still see my screen? I see some report that the sites are not building it properly.
I see the slide that shows, maybe just go to slide mode versus.
It should, you know, if everybody can see it. Okay, good.
We see the slide. The slides are just not moving, as someone is saying.
Oh, they are just moving like a tiny little bit.
Got it. So thank you for noticing, Dan Reed, or the slides are not progressing, but we'll get there. I think let's keep going. This is awesome. Okay. By the way, you did say something. I had to just, I am in love with this term, meetingless. You know, like it's just, it's amazing, because what you're saying is remote selling is about meeting digitally in a forum like this in a shared space, but it's also about moving and progressing a deal without even having a meeting, and using digital assets and digital collaboration, meaningless, which is really, really unique in its approach to driving the sales cycles.
Yeah, that is right. Well, you know, like, and what meaningless is about is when you, I'll give an example, when you share a proposal, instead of when you do a document, when you do a document share, right? If I click on any, you know, Google Doc or any other form of shareable document, and I click share, it becomes meaningless. When I record the video of a proposal review and send it to you, it becomes meaningless. These things no longer need meetings. And so what you'll see, for example, at Winning by Design, when we give somebody a proposal, you know, like we open up a template doc and immediately we invite the client into it, like on like the first hour. And they see the proposal being built in front of them. And we give the disclaimer at the beginning and say like, hey, the price is not final until we make it final, right? But then, you know, as we start, you know, working with the client starts commenting this. What about this and what about that? And instead of us meeting every, you know, day or so, there's a constant back and forth of comments in the document, and we tune that proposal to the client's need. That is meaningless. There's no meeting going on. We're just moving back and forth. What we see today, And what I'm a big believer in is that meetingless selling is going to have a far bigger impact than the online meetings, the Zoom meetings, the WebEx meetings, and so on, the Google Hangouts meetings. Meetingless is going to have a bigger impact because we want to go quicker. We don't have time to meet. And for those of you staying with us for an hour today, that's like a lot of commitment. All right? We got to really entertain you to do that. Now, what you'll see is that if I replace several of these existing meetings, and I'm going to go you the before and after. The before is, hey, we met everybody in person. The after is, we've replaced all the in-person meeting with meetingless meetings and online meetings. What you're going to find is that we're still executing, all of us are still executing the same playbook we've always been executing. And that playbook is the standard enterprise playbook. If we build a new playbook, the remote sales playbook, what you're going to see is we're going to crunch time, as I mathematically will prove in a second. And as a result, companies are going to get faster to cash and stuff like that. But we believe we can create a more modern approach, more modern process, which is the remote sales process.
So remote selling is about synchronous and asynchronous collaboration between a seller and a buyer over an extended period of time. And ultimately, because we're doing synchronous and asynchronous meetings, what we're doing is we're shrinking the sales cycle because we're getting more done faster and we're expanding the scope. We're getting more stakeholders and influencers involved as well, right?
Yes, but here's the question. This is a key understanding is we are not selling faster.
I love it. I'm always learning.
What we're doing is we are helping the client to buy at the pace they always wanted. We essentially, over the years, and I know this is provocative, we essentially have slowed down the buying process. And we have done that because of corporate initiatives. A ticket couldn't be booked without 2 weeks notice. So instead of saying, can you meet this afternoon, right? Or I can fly to you this afternoon, I'll meet you in whatever, Denver on tomorrow. Wait, I have to wait it. Let's book it out 2.5 weeks because I get the 2 weeks advance notice on my ticket. And so historically, field sales has historically experienced a delay. And this has occurred in a number of cases to such an extent that we now recognize that sellers have slowed down the selling process, whereas buyers want to go faster. Now, here's the thing. We are currently experiencing a moment that people are suddenly coming out and saying, I want to buy faster.
Yeah.
But as I even see it sometimes with our own sellers, like the other day, a seller asked one of my sellers, one of our MDs, for a proposal, and they said, we'll get it to you. It was on Tuesday last week. And they said, we'll get it to you next week. I call them up immediately, like, what do you mean we'll get it to them next week? Why not this afternoon? Like why can we not get them a proposal today? Like, open up the draft document, start editing it. Well, it's not ready. I need to review it. Don't worry about it. Just write, it's not ready yet. You see it here in practice. Let them know there's instant progress. And by doing that, you get instant progress.
So by the way, Jacco, we've got Joe Booth, who's a good friend. We've known Joe for many, many years. Mind blown, and I believe what he's referring to is the friction that we have inserted into the buying process by adding activity that needs to happen, whether it's meeting in person, approvals, I'll get you a proposal in a week. Like, why a week? Give it to me in an hour. Or I love it. Let's open up the proposal right now. Let's collaborate in real time. And,
That's right.
and it's amazing. This is why I loved your research. This is why I love your research, because there's so much in there. We got to keep going through it. It's just incredible. We're still at the definition, right? So I think we're relying on remote selling being a way to help our buyers. Thank you for correcting me. Buy faster.
That is exactly right. Buy it with the pace that they want to, and and what if you now go back, and I want you to think of this. I'm going to show it one more a different way of looking at it. Perhaps maybe a little bit more simpler. I want you to think that there's different speeds. I want you to think that you're in a stick shift car, automatic, doesn't matter. But what you see on-site meetings can only go at a certain pace. Why? Because travel will slow you down. If you go to hybrid, right, and you start at gear 2, you go a little bit faster. If you move primarily online, you can compress. If the buyer wanted to, you could compress significantly into online. Now, what my point is, hey, look, there's another speed, and that speed is meaningless. That's speed number 4. I'll talk in a second, elaborate on number 5. But speed number 4 is meaningless. All I want you to understand is you can switch between these speeds. You can say like, hey, I want to go on site, which obviously in today's world is a little bit, like not there. But if you switch between meaningless and online, there's different ways on how you can speed up the buying process. And all I want sellers to understand is that this is adjust your speed to the buyer, not try to impose on them your speed, as we so commonly think is sales, like force them, I can create a critical event. No, you can't. You can only tap into one they didn't know they have, but you can't create one. The last one, AI assisted, is if you don't have this, then AI will never root itself. As an engineer, I need something, and later on in a second, I'll show you the math behind it. I can only switch to automatic once I have created the process and so on and so forth.
So just a quick comment. I think we're going to make the research document available. I think it's deep. I just want everyone to start thinking. You're getting great feedback, Jacco. People love your framework, your mindset, your blueprints, your ideas. So really great feedback in the chat. Keep it coming, everyone. What is great is now I hope people are starting to think about, well, what does this mean for my playbooks? And we'll go there later, Jacco. I don't want to distract, but I just want people to start thinking about, we're going to get there at the end. How do you apply this to your sales process? How do you apply this to your buyer journey? How do you apply this to your playbooks, to your onboarding? Because we're sharing ideas now that is going to take some time to get your entire organization to be aligned with you and with these ideas. And we're going to give you the tools to get there. So that's coming. But Jacco, back, you're going to go. Where are you going to go next?
Okay. What I want to show you is I want to explain to you something. And it's the big misunderstanding about sales. And I'm going to show it to you mathematically. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about is this mystery box. Because we do not understand sales, because most people are afraid of it, because most people do not understand what happens, as an engineer, if I do not understand what happens in the box, I measure what comes out of the box based on what I put in. Electrically, I'm going to put an electrical signal in it, and I'm going to measure what the output is, right? That's how I'm going to do that. In other words, I'm going to measure wins divided by opportunities. I take this amount of leads in, and I get those amount of wins out. Then I'm going to call that the win rate, and I'm going to operate that mystery box based on that, because these are the only two variables. And guess what? Because these variables are the only two, these are the ones that most companies manage their business model on. How many leads, how many MQLs, how many SQLs, whatever it is, and how many wins. Now, what I'm going to do is exactly, measured in ohms, exactly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what's in the mystery box. So I'm going to go into that box. Now, when I look into that box, I know that sales is the outcome of multiple meetings. Now, in this case, just for the ease of understanding, I'm ignoring all emails and calls, which are relevant, and I'm only looking at calendared meetings. If I now have to get to a win, I know that all of these 4 meetings, as depicted down here, have to convert at a certain win rate. If I look at that, then my formula of win rate is not leads divided by opportunity or wins divided by opportunities. It essentially is conversion rate 1, 2, 3, and 4 multiplied by each other, and I get the outcome of that. If I want to know what the sales cycle is, I measure the time in between all those, and I know what my sales cycle is. Now, this gives me a scientific formula. If I look at this scientific formula, what I'm going to depict and what I want you to worry about is the following, and that goes further down in the research somewhere. And what you're going to see is, with it, I can do all kinds of things. Now, my first gut reaction is I'm going to depict to you what is standard, like our metrics that we have down here. And in this metrics, I'm going to take a $100,000 deal. Now, look what happens. $100,000 deal, on average, your rep closes 6 per year, sales cycle 150 days, 28.5% win rate. And what you'll see is it takes 12 calendar meetings. I want you to remember that. 28.5%, 12 calendar meetings. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to turn that into 12 calendar meetings. This is an example of that. I'm going to see down here, hey, how do I get there? How does it mathematically work? I take 21 opportunities, convert it 80%, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, you see, you multiply all this, you get to 6 wins. This is how it works. This is how all of you know how it is done. Now, what I'm taking a look, I'm pushing that to a playbook, voila, which is French for there you have it, the playbook. Now comes the math. This is the trick to understand. Remember, I said it took 12 meetings to get 28.5% win rate. Now, what it means is that if I create a linear function, that on average, every meeting needs to convert at 90%. That means all these meetings each need to convert at 90% in order to get 28.5% rate. Yeah, if I linearize this, right? That is Premier League selling. That is the reason why we are experiencing closing $100,000 deals so harsh. That's the trick. Now, if I reduce those meetings and I take them, for example, from 12 meetings to 10 meetings, aka I'm applying meeting selling, I'm removing meetings, what you're going to see that mathematically my win rate is going to increase. So my thought is, if I can insert meaningless selling and remove 2 meetings by instead having a document sharing instead of discussing with you the proposal, mathematically it would prove that I would go from 28.5% selling to 36.4%. It's not that easy. All I'm telling you, mathematically, this is what would happen. Now, and whether we move from 12 meetings to 10 meetings, if you have like 20 salespeople, you will move on average from 12 meetings to on average to 11.8. You'll see your win rate will go up. Now, what you'll see down here and where the thing really gets starting to become of interest is at the moment in time that I see 90 to the power of 10, the moment that happens, I know that if I make a small improvement in the 90%, I'm going to get huge impact. So look what I'm going to do. I know I already have 10 meetings. I'm now reducing it only, and I'm starting to focus to 90%. And I'm thinking, what if I can make a marginal incremental improvement? What if I can do that? If I improve these remaining meetings to 92%, you're going to find that mathematically, I'm going to increase my win rate. Wow. Now, how are we going to do that? That means that salespeople and need to focus very early on the call on starting on time, having the right people on the call, setting the end goal on time, and meeting that. That skill that we call base skill set is the ultimate skill set that has the biggest impact on your win rate. To start on time, to end on time, to achieve the end goal you set forth is the ultimate sales skill. The small improvement you make down here has the biggest impact. This is the reason why call recording technology can be of such impact. Now, what this comes out to, and what I want you to do, sit back, relax, take a breath. I'll be quiet for a second. I want you to realize this. This is the big mistake. On the outside, we constantly operate and act as if this mystery box is a linear function. A divided by B causes a linear function. Well, on the inside, it doesn't work like that. On the inside, it doesn't work like wins divided by opportunity. It works at the performance per meeting to the power of meeting, which is an exponential function. This is the big misunderstanding. Entire sales organization operate as if their business runs and behaves like a linear function. Twice as many leads results as twice as many deals. Twice as many salespeople result in twice as many business. Twice the size of the price equals twice the amount of ARR or revenue. It's not necessarily just that case. What you'll see that internally, inside of that sales mystery box, it actually performs exponentially. That means we need to think about differently, train differently, enable people differently, and so on and so forth. This is the misunderstanding that most salespeople have, most managers, executives, and so on have. They do not understand it's an exponential function.
Exponential multiplied impact on our company's performance, revenue, and go-to-market. Amazing. I'm just, every time I hear you share these numbers, it blows my mind away using Joe's words. And, where my mind is going right now is I'm thinking about, okay, so remote selling is more than just running an online meeting. There is a mindset that we got to get our sales teams to be, we have to change their mindsets to think about how they can run meaningless sales activity so they can help a buyer buy faster. How do we take this concept of a meaningless sales activity, and how do we integrate it with our sales process? What are the things that needs to change
Okay.
are you ready for that?
Yeah, like I think that what we need to look at is, like historically, most of our tools and technology has been focused on creating more, right? If you look at sales operational tools over the past years, it is all about volume increase, send more emails, get more people to your website, pay more SEO so we get twice as many visitors, buy bigger lists. Everything is measured in volume metrics, bigger, more, more, more. But that's not how sales works. Like the other day, true habit story. This is about like 48 business hours ago. It was Thursday, Friday last week. How many hours that is ago? This person I'm on the phone with, I was giving a consultancy to, says like, hey, we're gonna open up all these lists, blah blah blah. We're hiring 4 SDRs, set up this entire organization. And I go like, okay, great. How many deals do you need to win a year? And they were selling it to, I already knew it the moment that they said like she had a $200,000 average sales price. They're not going to be winning thousands of deals a year. So we came to the conclusion they need to win 30 deals a year. So I said like, what is your win rate? Worst case, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. That means that you need 150 opportunities in a year. Yes. Well, if you need 150 opportunities in a year, why are we deploying multiple SDRs and why are you trying to measure MQLs in the thousands every month? It doesn't match up. She goes like, I never thought about that. And why? This seems so obvious. Because people historically go to where they think other people are thinking because we haven't used the model yet. Now, what I can share with you is if you think about, hey, we only need to win 30 wins, and you know now this is a performance-based driven that works exponentially, I can tell you quality will do way better than quantity. So the way you apply that, don't try to win as many leads as you can or get as many leads as you can. Try to get the right leads. Make sure that you pre-qualify really and use a lot of extra data. That's what we're seeing in the tools today. Whether it's intent data, whether it's quality, instead of getting tools that allow us to expose and send our blurb out to 1,000, instead you are now seeing tools that say, here's the 15 right accounts for you. Here's their intent data. Here's what the accounts that you should be thinking about. And even when you think about that person, right, here's what you should be saying to that person. I can give you a few demos of that, and so that you get an idea of how that is. I'll switch over to share screen. Here you see, for example, I'll give lightning fast 2 examples. Here's Roelof on our team, and Roelof sharing is one of his proposals, and this is how Roelof opens up.
Hi there, shortlist. Roelof Hengst, winning by design. I would love to have the opportunity to have a couple of your...
And as he shares the proposal, he's going to take that proposal, and in a second, you're going to see him.
It's 35,000.
And he outlines the pricing. And then imagine what he does. Previously, there was a line item, $35,000. And somebody reviewed that price and go like, dang, why are we paying $35,000? And Roelof now in this says, the reason, I put that in there because you requested this. Michael requested this on your team, requested it, and that's why we put it in. Suddenly there's context. So Roelof is now sharing the proposal with the client, and with it, the proposal now no longer is only for the people in the meeting. The person who gets it starts sharing it internally. They all hear the voiceover. Now there's a few key things. Look at the length of this total. This is about 6 minutes, and that's what we want. We don't want it too long. It includes the document. It includes the reason, like the proposal and how we build it out and where we got to it. These are all key things. This is an example of how you do meetingless selling.
Incredible. So when we look at the skills and the playbooks that we need to start evolving, I think you took us to the place of it starts with the leads. It starts with better qualification. It continues with just raw, awesome execution of the meetings, and then we got to focus in on meaningless activity, right? And we got to be creative about how we're sharing information. We need to collaborate with our influencers and our stakeholders. We got to bring people together, synchronously, but also bring people together asynchronously in collaborating around proposals and spreadsheets. And then we got to ensure we're building relationships online, right? That's a high level kind of overview of some of the pillars of an enablement program and a playbook that we need to collectively evolve. Fair? Anything you'd add? What would you add?
Um, yeah, like for me, what I think is important is that, like, and I believe that this was the conversation you had at your enablement summit it feels now a few days ago, but it must have been
Yes,
a few days ago.
multipliers.
Multipliers. And, like what we see is that we need a common fundamental language that we speak about. All the departments need to be connected. Today, the departments operate with different volume metrics, marketing, MQL, sales and recurring revenue, CSMs in either onboarding, churn or upsell, cross-sell as metrics. They're all forms of a form of a metric that we're measuring, and they actually create shields, create like siloed organizations. What we need to establish is what goes across the organization. And it's simple. I get to the point, like at the video that you and I discussed in the past, impact. In the end, and this is a very important statement for those of you who are sitting in the recurring revenue business. Recurring revenue is the result of recurring impact. Okay? Nobody will keep buying from you if you don't keep delivering what you're telling them what you're promising them. Recurring revenue is a result of recurring impact. This is the important thing. If I now know that that is what I'm basing this on, then I know that in order to get to recurring impact, I need to get to first impact. Voila, that's what my customer success organization onboarding team does. Get me to first impact. Okay, then what does sales do? Sales need to make sure that when the client buys it, the price that they charge for it is based against the impact that they're delivering it. 4 seats should be half the price of 8 seats, for example, in this case of that impact measure in seats. Then I go to the prospecting function, and I want to make sure that the prospecting function establishes with the client the impact we deliver and make sure that's a match. If we deliver with an applicant tracking system that you can hire faster and do more, then the client says like, no, I don't need faster. I just want to get a really good candidate, one candidate every year. Well, then an applicant tracking system is not the right solution for you. It's more volume-based, large, high recruits. If you want to recruit one person, then keep your spreadsheet, right? So we want to measure that impact. And then when we go further up, we want to say, shouldn't we market and qualify based on impact? And shouldn't we talk to clients up front? It's like, look, that's not the impact we can deliver. Today, most salespeople and prospectors are trained to go like, folks, don't worry about that. Just get the client on board. That's what the customer success team deals with. No, not the case. We know, again, based on mathematical formulas, that it's simply you're making a loss long and deep into the relationship before you make a profit. So if your client churn, in most cases, if your client churns in 12 to 18 months, you're making a loss on them. The more deals you win, the more money you lose. So you better start making sure up front that you're closing the right clients. And that means you got to early on take a look at the impact.
True. You know what I also like about the digital selling and remote selling and the collaboration? When we have a champion or an exec sponsor, right? And we introduce a concept and we have a pitch and we have a conversation and we understand the requirements. We're trying to help them buy. We can use meaningless activity, meaningless selling, and collaboration around a mutual plan or a proposal as a way to ultimately qualify the customer. Are they a good customer? Are they going to work with us? Because we need them to collaborate with us in order for us to make them, it's a relationship, right? Right, Jacco? Like,
Yeah.
How do you want to comment on that? Because we're building in a qualification mechanism by driving better buying experience. It's insane if you think about it.
Yeah, so for me, and like it's an uncommon mode. I don't think that many people would think that we're here mode on today's call, but a common mode, a common mode created by sales professionals is that they say the relationship I have with my customer is and the trust I've built over years is the key, and therefore, new things will not happen. That no longer is the case. It still is the case, but less and less. Let me be more. If you have a great and 20 years relationship, great. That doesn't mean that you're the only one who can sell to that client. We think that the relationship is not a switch that is on or off. Respect and trust is not, it's either 0 or it's 100. If I respond to a client's need, I build a relationship, maybe 5% or 10% of trust. What you find is that if you do proper remote selling, including Eli, you sitting where you're sitting and me, I'm sitting, because you're able to look in my environment, it actually feels more authentic and more trustworthy. We see that trust is developing in a new kind of way, where historically we would have said, no, I want to read the entire body language. Nowadays you want to go like, hey, he has a Star Wars book on the wall. Like, why would he have that Starbucks book on the wall, right? What's up there, right? Oh, he must, and oh, he has markings on the whiteboard. All that stuff actually built authenticity and trust. Not because, like I wanted it, just because it is there. And so this trust is developing in a different way in the remote world. This respect and that is developing in a different world. We see each other on LinkedIn, and I can give you an example on how that works on LinkedIn. I can learn things about LinkedIn. Let me see. Ryan, you're there? Ryan Chisholm, do you mind if I use your LinkedIn profile? Let me see if Ryan, yes, okay. So Ryan, I'm gonna use your LinkedIn profile. I'm gonna share screen.
Let's do it.
And I'm going to try to get to know Ryan. Ryan, have you and I met before? I do not know that for certain. I apologize. Oh, okay, great. We have not met before. So I'm going to get to know to Ryan. So I'm going to type in Ryan, Chisholm. Let me see if I type it right. Chisholm. Oh, that's a beautiful name. There's Ryan.
There it is.
Ryan, we are connected, but that is probably because we have connected somewhere in the past, but look at that. So this is what Ryan and I, are connected. Now we don't have to be connected for this. I'm going to let you know with this little thing down here, what remote selling can do. We're going to take a look at Ryan. Ryan, this is going to analyze your profile. It's going to use certain public resources. This tool is called Crystal Knows. Ryan may appreciate challenges and often enjoys taking the lead to produce results. Okay. What it says is Ryan is a captain, and what it also says is that Ryan down here is marked against my profile. Are you ready, Ryan? Can I go a little deeper? I'm waiting for him to say yes.
I don't think he'll mind.
Okay, here's Ryan. Ryan, it comes naturally for him to work independently to meet a deadline. He enjoys arguing and debate, known already in the chat box, and he set ambitious goals for others. Ryan is energized by competition, professional growth, and leading the group, but he's stressed by, unrelated to the main tangents, following an inflexible rules, in other words, authority, and people blindly supporting others. When speaking to Ryan, I do X, Y, Z. What I can now do is I say like, hey, I want to have a meeting with Ryan, online meeting, and I want to discuss pricing. Get me advice. This tool gives me a first readout based on a disc profile that I would say these sentences. I would take this posture, make intentional eye contact, and I would make sure to do this and don't do this. And let me see if there's one. Don't provide artificial deadlines or discounts. Ryan does not like that. So this means that if I say to Ryan, I'm going to give you a discount based on this time frame, that actually works against what he says. Now, do you know how long I would need if I wanted to get to know Ryan? Do you know how long? That would take me 3 months to extract that level of information out of him, to figure that out. Now, I cannot only do this for Ryan right now, I can do this for multiple people in his organization. I can immediately take a look at what is going on, when and where, and I can, do all kinds of things with that. That is how I get to know Ryan. This, to me, is a form of digital selling and building digital trust. I do not have the time to fly to your location, meet you for 3 months, 2-3 times over 3 months, then propagate to your boss, do the same thing all over again, and make my way through the entire organization. Et voila, it takes me a year in order to get to know your organization before I can actually sell. Not needed. I can do it right now.
Interesting. So someone asked how accurate some of this was, and Ryan highlighted that a couple elements are accurate. I think it's a great point, right? I think what Jacco has been showing us is there are a number of tools that are mapped across. And when I say tools, I don't necessarily just mean technology. There's skills, there are activities, there are tactics to use across the sales process, across a buyer's journey that will ultimately help elevate your go-to-market and get all your teams to be amazing at remote selling so they can help your customers buy at the speed with which they want to buy. I love those words, Jacco. I love those words. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we're super fortunate to have a lot of your ideas and your coaching videos and your team skills exercises available inside the SalesHit platform. And so for those of you that are on the webinar or listening to the replay that are an existing SalesHit customer, you can go into your library, you can search remote selling, and then boom, there is a multitude of amazing assets that Jacco and his team have produced for us that are available to you. And more is coming. We just released a bunch more today, and there's more and more coming, right, Jacco? There's always more coming.
Now we believe in that, like that the market is moving so fast that we need, now what we separate, and this I'll give you a few points of view for those of you who are managing sales teams or are enabling sales.
Just and one more, sorry, one more comment. So just before you go there, and for those of you that are not customers of SalesHit today, or you are a customer of Winning by Design, you can go to the saleshit.com site and you can just find remote selling, and then you can sign up quickly, and we'll give you free access to all of Jacco's content, which is over 40 videos, over 6 to 8 exercises, collaborative exercises, and this will help you begin to get your organization aligned so you can move them and start applying all these principles. Sorry, Jacco, I wanted to just make sure I closed the loop on that so folks listening know that we're givers, Jacco. We are givers, and we're here to support everyone.
Yes, just a minor nudge, not free, complimentary.
Yes. And so Jacco, we got to do a time check. I know you were about to go down a path. I know you really want to talk about virtual coaching. And so where do you want to go in the last 5 minutes here?
Okay, I want to give people the difference between understanding the difference between coaching and managing. I want to let people to understand the importance of the last mile. What we see historically, and I'll depict it simply, we got the company, we got a seller, we got a buyer, and we got the buying company. These are 4 roles. Can you envision those? Right? What we see is most of us are focused on managing. Managing is an activity that takes place between my company and my rep. Enabling takes place most of the time between my company and my rep. I sit in there, I'm managing and enabling. This is not what the future of enablement and management is. The future of enablement and management sits between the rep and what we refer to as the last mile, the next seller and the company internally. I need to help my buyer to sell whatever solution I'm having internally to the organization. We refer to this as the last mile, and it includes the relationship between the rep and the customer, the buyer. Now, when you think of the relationship of the manager sitting between the rep and the company, the relationship of a coach sits between the rep and the buyer. It's the same person, but he or she positions themselves in a different vantage point. What we see more and more is that management techniques are shifting towards coaching, and what we believe is management, promotion, job reviews and so on, will all be relegated more and more to the HR department doing 360s, because less people are skilled, legally held liable for the role of people management. They're more there to coach the person on what to do, not necessarily to tell them that they sucked at their job and to say the wrong words and therefore be held liable. So we're going to see that the coaching is becoming more. We're going to see that tools, enablement tools, since most of you are thinking about this, are shifting towards helping the buyer to buy rather than helping the seller to sell. This mindset of enablement is going to change. And I'm going to leave you, and then we can open it up for questions. I want to leave you with this quote, as I put it on the screen. But for me, this helping the buyer to buy as the primary goal of enablement is it's a minor restating of what we already are doing, but it puts the focus on what we believe is the right thing to do moving forward. And whether it's enablement for tools such as yours, Eli, or whether it's services that we provide at Winning by Design, whether it's with coaching and training from the content side and so on and so forth. We position ourselves to help the buyer to buy. And with that, I'll hand it back.
Incredible insight. And I feel like you've just scratched the surface. I feel like we're just giving people a taste of the amazing research and the implications of the research to their go-to-market and ultimately to their playbooks and their enablement programs. And so we're going to have to keep this conversation going. And, you know, I think for those of you that are on the call or listening to the replay, just want to remind everyone, the complete library of remote selling training, the curriculum, the classes, the lessons, all the tips and tricks are available inside SalesLead. You can request access. The research study is also available. We're going to make sure everyone gets it, and that the downloadable is available right then and there from wherever you're watching this replay. So don't worry, and everyone that is listening to this right now will get it emailed to them as well. So just incredible, Jacco. I want to thank you very, very much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and your insights. And we love the partnership with Winning by Design, and I think you are such a great contributor to help elevate the entire sales profession. So thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Where I want to like light up people in the thought of is the following. If you go back, whatever well, I don't even know how far it has to go back, but you go back to the medical area and the development of how medical science became more scientific and more process driven. If you go back, all the way back, there was a time where voodoo and where sages were actually the ones that how you were administered, right? It's powders and lights and smokes and scents that were going to fix you. This form of voodoo stuff. And at a certain point in time, it became the medical field that we now know, the doctors, the research. I want you to think of, where are we on that continuum? We are not that this is completely scientific. We're not there yet. Dependent on where you are, I find that many of us live in this world of partly art and voodoo, and a lot of people want to hold on to that. Like, oh no, this is an art, this is like secret. And I go like, but it's not. We have math behind it, basic math. We have models. We have all this is behind it. If we start embracing that, that's the way on how we can progress what we refer to as the profession of sales. We're not going to be able to create progression on it if we continue to think this is some like secret skill that is passed on via a secret DNA gene, some secret gene in the DNA that then makes you like a salesperson. It's not. Introverts, extrovert, everybody can sell. Gender, race, nothing. It's all equal to everyone. The only difference is, can you master what are truly the skills that we mathematically show that you have to do? Can you start a meeting on time? That is not a DNA gift. Can you set the end goal properly? That's not a DNA gift. Can you ask a person a straight up question? Do you know the difference between open and closed questions? Can you sequence them? All these things are things that can be taught to any person that wants. And that to me gives me a way brighter future of sales, whether AI is involved or that or not, than it is to think it's some like voodoo stuff that some magical person can do by showing up on a call, and which I not necessarily believe in. There is some art to it, but it's the same art that makes a doctor, that makes an engineer, that makes a specialist in anything. And that's just love for what you're doing.
Boom. That was amazing. Thank you, Jacco.
You're most welcome.